Hey all, it is 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Pacific Time, 6 o'clock in the afternoon in Barcelona at Submer HQ, 7 o'clock in the evening where I am here coming to you live from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And today, of course, we're speaking to none other than Buddy Rizer. Buddy Rizer is a huge name. We're going to talk a little bit about him and about Loudoun County and about music and about many other things, I hope. Thank you all for joining us live, and also for anyone who's listening later to the recording. We hope you enjoy this. I would ask you just a couple of very simple things. So first of all, so you know who I am, my name is Diarmuid Daltoon. I think a lot of you know me, but I think more people know Buddy. It's true, Buddy. And yeah, I run sales and marketing for Submer, Immersion Cooling company, based and headquartered out of Barcelona, and also with offices in Ashburn in Loudoun County, Northern Virginia. Also, just a very, very quick note for anyone who hasn't been following any of our content, you can find us on every conceivable platform. But this podcast will also be on YouTube, made available on our YouTube channel afterwards. We also make it available as a podcast on SoundCloud and on other platforms. And one thing I would just ask is that, you know, we're always interested in you interacting with us, asking us your questions. So if you notice, we're doing this through Zoom, and you have the ability to leave your questions, to type in a question, and Buddy and I will have a look at those questions as we go along, but also definitely during the Q&A section, which is about maybe half an hour into the session, depending on how much Buddy and I buzz during the time there. So let's see how that goes along. So it really is my absolute pleasure, and Buddy, you can't even imagine how honored we are to have you as a guest today. I'm sure most people around understand that. But to try and give you some kind of an introduction, you know, you're the executive director for the economic development in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is one of the fastest growing and wealthiest counties in the nation of the United States of America. You lead the agency responsible for encouraging growth and developing relationships with the county's business community in both the commercial and agricultural-based business sectors in Loudoun. Buddy has been named one of the 50 most influential Virginians by Virginia Business Magazine in 2018, and one of North America's top 50 economic developers for 2017. He's been honored by so many, and Buddy, this is really a very, very long intro. I'm not going to read all of this out, to be honest. But you are honestly a part of the whole data center business and everything. And I know that you're such a big, big personality in that regard. You have a past that we are going to talk about as well, something we have in common, something musical. But also you work with a lot of companies that include Digital Realty Trust, Equinix, Amazon, Verizon Business, Google, Facebook, Salesforce, Northrop Grumman, Neustar, and the Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins, we've got to come to that at some stage too. So, Buddy, is there anything that you would say that I left out of that introduction where you say it's a must know that people should know about you?
Well, no, I think that I think what all that says is how lucky I am. I am blessed to have one of the best jobs, I think, in all of economic development. And I could not be more proud to be part of Data Center Alley. And I really appreciate you allowing me to be part of what Submer is working on here today.
Thank you very much, Buddy. Buddy, maybe before we dive into Buddy Rizer, the person, because this is also what people have tuned in to hear today. Let's maybe talk a little bit about Loudoun County. You know, we at Submer, we know where Loudoun County is, why Loudoun County is so significant, but we do have a very international audience here today. Maybe you could help us as well with the aid of a couple of visuals, just step through that. That would be fantastic.
Sure, absolutely. You know, Loudoun has really evolved into something that we think is pretty special. It's for a long time, probably best known as being the home of Dulles International Airport. But I think more recently, we've kind of branded ourselves and become better known as a technology location. You know, we think that Loudoun County has all of the assets necessary to be attractive to the technology businesses. And if you want to kind of run through the slides a little bit, I think I can tell you a little bit about, first of all, where we are. We're right outside of Washington, D.C. We are 28 miles from the nation's capital, which is very exciting, home to Dulles Airport. And also, in addition to being someplace of great technology, we're a great place for wine and craft beers and the rural economy. So it's really the best of both worlds. When we really started looking about 12 years ago about what we wanted to do when we grew up, we wanted to be a robust and fully functional economy. And that kind of led us down the path of technology. AOL was here. WorldCom was headquartered here. We were a location that has built out a great infrastructure. And through that, we kind of stumbled upon, I guess you could say, the data center industry. We were early and aggressive in attracting the data centers, and proud to say that it's something that has really paid off in a big way for Loudoun County. Why is it important to Loudoun County? Well, this year alone, we'll receive about $300 million in local tax revenue from the data center industry. And it's helped really power our economy going forward.
Okay, super. I mean, maybe, you know, we mentioned already a lot of these names here, but like, and obviously you owe, and Loudoun County owes a big thanks to a lot of these players here. And others who aren't mentioned here even either.
Yeah, this is in no way an exhaustive list. We change this list all the time, but I will tell you that by and large, either you have a location in Loudoun County, or you will soon be having a location in Loudoun County if you're one of the major technology companies.
Yeah, I mean, you know why we chose Loudoun County, because you've got to be there to take part in that whole scene. But what about the, you know, the industry demand and the demand there?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that and you think about the demand of technology, and then you look at names like London and Phoenix, Dallas, Chicago, Amsterdam, Paris, and you see that Loudoun County, Northern Virginia, is more than double any two or three of them put together when it comes to demand. And we see that continuing. You know, obviously, as fiber becomes more ubiquitous and we move into new markets, we think that there's plenty of business for everyone. But you know, certainly the core of the internet has found a home here in Northern Virginia.
Okay, and partially, of course, because of the amount of fiber that you have there, but we'll come to that probably in a bit as well. How about the upcoming, or what's under construction, which is also blows my mind?
Yeah, last year we brought more data center buildings online than in any other year in our history. So you would think, well, maybe it will take some time to catch up, but our pipeline remains very strong. I always say, if not another new entrant came into the market, we'll almost double in size over the next 5 years, just by organic growth that we're seeing in the market, the land that has been land banked by all the major companies. We're very bullish on continuing our growth in the data center industry, and really all the accessory technology companies that come along with it. And I would put Submer, you know, wholly in that category.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to say, I don't want to call it negatively a self-fulfilling prophecy, but when big players come together, then they need to be together, and they can make use of that proximity to each other. So it's therefore a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but there's a solid reason to be there. You have made the conditions very, very favorable, or very easy for people to do business in that regard.
And I think that's right. I mean, I think that what we tried to do early on, and we've continued to do, is make this the best place in the world to do business. We wanted to make sure all the infrastructure was here. That's power and fiber and water. Workforce is incredibly important. We're very focused on that. And then we want to make it easy. And we've been able to put together zoning and a lot of different things, regulations that have made it easier and faster to do business. And we're committed to that into the future as well.
Okay, cool. I mean, maybe just so people really understand, because this is something that anyone who didn't know Loudoun County beforehand, and they see this is the before picture, yeah?
Right. This
Maybe
is
you can talk us through it, yeah?
yeah, in 1989, there were about 90,000 people in Loudoun County. You see the airport there front and center. What you don't see is a whole lot of things around the airport. But if you fast forward ahead to where we are today on the next slide, you're going to see in the yellow dots there are data centers. And north is to your right of the screen there. You see all the houses that have filled in and all the data centers. In particular, straight ahead, the middle runway, you'll see what we call Data Center Alley. And right now we have about 14.5 million square feet of data center on the ground. And we have another 4 or so that's currently under construction. We haven't had one day without data center construction in over 10 years here in Loudoun County.
Wow. I'm just going to go back just for 1 second so people see this here once more and then see this here, which is amazing. And obviously, you know, these are people who are somehow associated with the data center industry, either secondary industries.
Yeah, there's about 13,000 people that are directly employed either with the industry or in one of the concentric circles around the data center industry.
Okay, cool. And maybe talking a little bit about some of the other highlights that you would care to mention or want to talk about here.
Sure. Well, you know, we don't need to spend too much time on this, but, you know, when you look at the peak load, you know, over 1.1 gigawatts, and we've been adding about 100 megawatts a year over the last few years. The work that Dominion Energy has done in this market has just been world class. They have been proactive partners. They've worked together with us on planning and marketing. And I think the energy people around the country could learn a lot by the way Dominion Energy approaches the data center market.
Okay. And then talking about sustainability and what is Loudoun County doing there. We're going to come back to this again later on, you know that. But, you know, just a little bit here maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all recognize that sustainability is going to be important in our industry. You know, and it's not, it's multifaceted, right? I mean, it's one of the largest cost centers for a data center company. Plus, it's, you know, good for the world. So we want to make sure that we're doing all the things. Dominion's been a very good partner in that. And I would, you know, compliment the industry itself has been a leader in the world in trying to make sure that we're doing smart things when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, we've had the recent announcement from Google as well that they're making the single largest investment in renewable electricity. I think though, one of the general criticisms on some of this stuff here is that a lot of that is not being generated right where it's being used or needed, and it's more an offset than an actual use. But I think gradually we're getting there. We may have to do it a little bit faster. We've all been listening to Greta over the past couple of days, and she's definitely inspiring us all to do our best in that regard.
Well, and I think it's a process, right? I mean, you know, it's going to take time, but you know, the ability, and we'll talk more about this, but what Submer's doing, what other companies are doing, is really going to be a game changer going forward.
Okay, superb. Buddy, talk to us about just a little bit regarding the fiber here, because we know it's one of the key reasons why Loudoun County is what it is.
Sure. You know, this map reminds me, you know, when you take your kids to a restaurant and they give you these sticky strings and you put them on paper and they make all kinds of weird shapes. That's what that looks like to me. It is an amazing thing that we have here. It is the densest fiber anywhere in the world. Multiple routes and multiple providers. It is really something that we're quite proud of, and something that we want to continue to grow users of fiber. But you know, that critical mass of fiber has been important to our growth.
Okay, I mean, did this happen by mistake that 70% of the world's internet traffic runs through your county, or what's the story here?
Well, you know, I think that you have to go back to 1997 when AOL came here. You know, in 1997, for many people, AOL was the internet and the internet was AOL. Because they were here, it was important for them to have as much fiber connectivity on the front end as possible, because on the back end, we were all using dial-up at that point. So you wanted to make sure that it was as good as possible. Equinix moved what was then called May East out to Loudoun County. And from there, I think that what you've seen is just an explosion of fiber from that internet connection point here in Loudoun.
Okay. All right. Cool. We talked a little bit about the, I suppose the tax environment, but is there anything else that you'd want to add?
No, I think that we have been committed to a stable environment, and we've done a lot of things along the way to make sure there's predictability on all levels in the market. And I would put the world-class sales and use incentive in that category, but also the fact that the how are we counting, how are we assessing, and how are we making sure that we have a stable tax environment. All of that's important, not just a one-time incentive.
Very true. I mean, any organization with any large amounts of money which are being invested and going through that, they want to know it's the place to be, and you're not suddenly going to change the rules on them halfway through it.
Predictability.
Yeah, the workforce we touched upon a little bit, but maybe if there's a couple of points here which makes sense to have a quick more bit of detail to.
Sure, we certainly have a very highly qualified, highly technical workforce, and we put a lot of effort in that. We have a workforce function right inside our department here, and recently we've partnered with the industry to create a data center operations 2-year program at the local community college. We think workforce is incredibly important to the growth of our economy, the data center industry, and certainly the growth of what we hope to accomplish long-term here in Loudoun County.
Maybe it's a good point. Like, I know that we've spoken about this before. There are a few common objections to data center businesses in general, and one of them is definitely workforce, because a large building like a 1 million square foot building or whatever else, which may only employ 60 people full-time. How are you dealing with that, or how are you generally responding to those kinds of criticisms?
Well, I will tell you from our standpoint, the data centers have been the perfect industry because our unemployment rate is under 2. In Loudoun, it's under 2.4, I think, in the region, and under 2.8 in all of Virginia. So really, that's not the big deal. For us, what's really important is that the investment comes in a way that it allows us to do a lot of things to help improve our community. In the last couple of years, all-day kindergarten and 6 new schools, three a year going forward. All the new road infrastructure, all that has been really part of that. I think saying that there are no jobs in data centers is kind of a lazy kind of a thought. I think that there are a lot of really high paying and highly skilled jobs in the data center. I mentioned before about 13,000 jobs in Loudoun County are in or around the data centers. So, I think you also have to consider the workforce that relies on them, from construction to the secondary restaurants and retail. I mean, it's an ecosystem, and I think if you want to look at just one building and count the people in one building, you're not really understanding economics and what we're trying to accomplish here in the county.
Absolutely, and the fact that you are able to reinvest in the community, I think, is one of the amazing things. Like you were discussing about having surpluses, which every other county can only dream of. So, and it's fantastic that you're able to put that back into the community.
Yeah, in times when it is not an easy time for many local governments, we have been able to reduce the taxes 25.5 cents over the last 6 years on residents. That's about $2,000 additional money in everybody's pocket, every resident's pocket, or every household's pocket. But we've also been able to complete a lot of projects that without this steady stream of income, we wouldn't have been able to do. Okay.
You wanted to have a quick chat about this Cyrus One building and the time to market and what they manage.
And this is, I mean, we've been able to replicate this time and time again. But I did want to say that we believe that getting a data center from drawings on our conference room table to commission in 6 months is believed to be the fastest on record. We're always trying to beat our own record and trying to do that. But I think it speaks to a business-friendly environment and really the cooperation that the industry and the county have been able to build.
Yeah, I think other locations can only dream of such a speed. They're used to permitting times of a year alone before they even start anything else. So that's definitely a good mention. We kind of touched on the local tax revenue. We did that already. Maybe some of the trends that you see also leading towards the continued growth.
Sure. One of the other things that we're constantly asked about is, we actually had a supervisor or an elected official who asked me once publicly, well, if everything's going to the cloud, why do we need data centers? We think that the growth is going to continue, and we think that demand is going to outpace supply for at least the next 4 or 5 years in Loudoun County. So the way we use information and the way we create information, we're all content creators now. Something like this is going to be stored somewhere that people can look for it.
Multiple times, by the way.
Yeah. Right. So, and I'm sure that this is going to be a very popular episode, more because of you than me. But I think it's really important that people understand that as we create all of this new content on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, we're all content creators, and that information has to go somewhere. And by and large, that is going to be driving the future of our industry. And then when you start to look at gaming and video and all the things that we're all seeing, not even talking about when we get to more automated vehicles and artificial intelligence and smart toasters and everything else, all of that is going to need the data center space. So we think that the growth of all of this is going to continue to drive demand.
Yeah, I mean, which of course brings us to the topic of the environmental footprint, which we're increasing the whole time. So that's obviously one of the objections. And I know that there's that program with Dominion. Are there other things that you as Loudoun County are looking at, like the reuse of heat or whatever else? What else are you looking at?
Well, I'm a firm believer that the future of our industry, and by our industry, I mean the data center industry, the future is about energy production, usage, and storage. It's one thing on the end to try to come up with more greener ways to produce energy. And I think that's important. And I think we're going down a very important path with that. And I'm proud to be part of an industry that is doing that. But I think the next thing is how do we use the energy? And this is why when I met with Jeff from your team first about Submer, it's about new ways of cooling, and it's about new ways of doing business and new technologies that are allowing less energy to be used. And then you start to think about storage and how can we use more of this renewable energy in times when we need it, and that's going to come down to storage. So it's not just how energy is produced, it's how it's used, how it's stored, and I think that in itself is going to be very important to the data center industry going forward.
Absolutely agree. I do think we've got to do more on that, but that's something that we can follow up on at some other stage. And I think the only other kind of frequent objection you're probably dealing with is these kind of box buildings, maybe these large boxes and stuff like that. What is Loudoun County doing about things like that?
No, we've had this conversation ongoing, but I think what's important for people to understand is we are, by and large, a very new industry. The data center industry, as we know it today, is no more than a decade old. And so what we built 10 years ago isn't what we're building today. And we want to get better. We want to get it right. We want to be good citizens and be part of this community. And so we've had that ongoing conversation. And in recent planning activities, we've kind of highlighted the fact that we would like, especially things that are fronting major roadways or residential, we'd like them to look better. And the industry has responded. The industry's been at the table. They're taking a lead on trying to determine what can be done at a price conscious way that makes sure that we're doing the right things for the community as well. But I'm proud of what we've done. I commit that the industry is going to be part of this conversation. There are not going to be any surprises going forward. We're going to work together to make sure that we're creating something we can all be proud of. And I think that when you drive around now and you look at some of the new buildings that people like Vantage and Sentinel and Cyrus One and Raging Wire and Digital Realty, and I mean, everybody has done a great job of upping their game and doing things that look really, really good. So I'm proud of all of that.
Yeah, their lawns and surroundings are better manicured than most households, I would say.
They really are. And again, I keep coming back to, we're new. I mean, the trees that we're planting, you can't expect full grown trees in 3 years. It's going to take time, but it's a conscious effort, and I'm proud of the progress we've made.
Cool. And just before we talk about Buddy Rizer, the man, and the hat, because I love this hat picture, as I'm sure many people have complimented you on, do you think the successes in Loudoun County are repeatable elsewhere? I know you have some neighboring counties which have tried to take it, and with some of them are doing it to some success, but maybe also to the international audience. Is there something that you can also maybe give them the quick, the Buddy 1, 2, 3, how to go about this?
Well, first of all, people, the magazine cover has been has launched 1,000 memes of me. It's pretty funny. And yes, just for the record, those are my own clothes. That is my own hat. That is not a costume. I really believe in when I came into this, my goal was to make it easy and to make it fast and to make it a good experience. Trying to overthink it probably is not what is necessary for our industry. I think what we need to do is just make sure that we understand what the companies need, and we try to be proactive in providing that to them. And it's great to see what's happening across Virginia. When you look at Prince William and Henrico and the South Side and all the other areas, they are being very good about building something in their community as well. Believe me, there is enough demand that we can all succeed. And I get calls a lot from around the world where people say, hey, we want to be the Ashburn of whatever country. And what do we do to replicate that? Just do everything that you can in a purposeful, smart way to create an environment where businesses can succeed. It can be a game-changing technology. It can be a game-changing industry for your community, but there has to be a wide commitment. It can't be just the economic developer. It has to be a commitment through the power and through the water and through all reaches of the government to work together to understand that we need to come up with ways to make sure that this is something that can be long-lasting and successful.
Okay. Just a quick reminder to everyone, just regarding the Q&A again, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity possibly to ask Buddy some fantastic questions. Possibly
I don't know
some
about
personal ones too.
Ask me questions all the time.
But what do you call it? Let's just so you were not always in the data center industry. It may come as a shock to some people, but tell us, how in the name of whatever did you get from being a DJ to that? But tell us first about it. How did you get to be a DJ?
I actually, I decided early on that I either wanted to be a shortstop on a pro baseball team or a disc jockey. It was apparent to me early on that I wasn't going to be a shortstop. So I actually became a professional disc jockey on a radio station at age 15. And by 18, I was the nighttime DJ in my hometown, which was incredible. I worked all through college and made it to the major market at a pretty young age. Was at DC 101, which is the big rock station in Washington, DC. Was there for 16 years. Spent some time in Baltimore at 98 Rock in Baltimore, which is another legendary rock station. And just had absolutely the best experience you could have. It was wild, it was fun, it was just everything that you could think. I mean, if you want to do Spinal Tap for radio stations, that's really what it was. I mean, it was during the go-go times of the 80s and 90s, and was awesome. But then at some point I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And it took me some time to figure out exactly what I did want to do, but I knew I wanted to be around business. Kind of discovered economic development and lucked into a job here in Loudoun County where we had the chance to kind of remake economic development, reimagine what it looked like or could look like, and have it look back since. Been here 12 years now, and it's just been the experience of a lifetime.
What level did you step into the team at Loudoun County at?
Well, I came into an organization that had some very talented people. I came in as really a salesman for technology and selling our community. Identified quickly that we had the opportunity to tackle data centers. Was promoted, I think, 4 times in the first 5 years, and now I've been the director for the last 6 years.
Wow.
So it's happened fast and furious, but it's been great.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite Spinal Tap quote?
Oh, geez. We're always talking about trying to make sure it goes to 11 here, right?
Yeah.
But I think we can all relate to no matter what our background is in that. I mean, I played instruments as I know you're still playing, but I tried to be in bands when I was younger, and I had the hair when I had any hair. It was long. I was in a band called Negative Ghost Rider and did a lot of fun things around that. And it was Spinal Tap, rang true on a lot of levels for me. And I don't know about you. I mean, you're in a band now, right?
Yeah. I absolutely, like, Spinal Tap is one of those very formative movies of my childhood.
Yeah.
We probably saw it. We're a little bit different in age, not much,
Yep.
but so for me, it came in a time I was already playing in bands. I related to it, and one of course, the amazing things is you see how this has been crowd, and now I'm back there because I left it for years, and I came back, and I have the joy of playing with some very, very well-known musicians who have to be paid to play with me. Yeah. It has to be said, but still it's amazing. But music is something which is also the love of music, universal. I think everybody really enjoys it. Yeah, something which really is the soundtrack of our lives as well. So, I mean, who were the kind of, I don't know, the other musicians? Maybe you got to meet some of them. Was there anyone really that left a big impression on you?
Oh, well, I mean, a lot. First of all, I do want to offer to come play cowbell in your band.
Love it.
Talk about that, but I mean, I was really formed. My music taste was formed in my youth by the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith and Kiss and those bands, and I got to know really all of them during that time, and I was fortunate enough to spend a week and a half on tour with the Rolling Stones doing my radio show from Europe while on tour with them. So that was just, something that you'll never be able to replicate. Steven Tyler became, somebody that I would talk to fairly regularly and had spent a lot of time with. But there's nothing that can then inspire me and take me to a different place than like music, even to today. I spend a lot of time still listening to music and creating my own playlist and doing all of those things, and discovering new music is something that I'm still very passionate about.
And how does your family kind of look back at your past and look at you now? And what do they make of what you do now and what you did then?
Well, when I explained to when I explained to my father that I was getting a job in government, he famously said,
Heart attack.
"That's it's the first time you ever got a real job." He never understood what I was doing before. Of course, he didn't really understand what economic development was until about 2 years ago when Amazon HQ2 was out, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's what economic development is. I got that now." But no, it's no matter what I've done, I've been one of those very lucky individuals that I have never had to go to a job that I didn't want to go to, not once in my life. And I understand how blessed I am to have that, but I just try to live every day to the fullest and do whatever I'm doing with full passion. And I don't enjoy what I'm doing today any less than I did before when I was in radio. It's all about finding the right people to be around and doing things that really matter to you.
Yeah, and I think that's also from my years what I would say to everyone: if you're not enjoying what you're doing, there's something wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, why do it? I mean,
True.
We all have different situations, but at the end of the day, I think you owe it to yourself to put yourself in situations where you can feel inspired and do things that matter.
And you owe it to the people around you too, because otherwise you're bringing them down.
A good point.
So I was going to have a quick look at the questions that we've had in. And Terry, I hope it's okay, I'm naming your name here. We have a question: is the under construction megawatt by market slide really from H2 2018, or is it more current?
I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that it's something that is from 2018. I don't know that we've updated it since then, but yeah, Terry, I think that's probably not the most recent details, but I think that it's still very illustrative of what we are doing. Terry, by the way, if you ever spend time with Terry, make sure you look around your office, because you might find a little army man somewhere in your office. He's famous for doing that.
Okay, or do things go missing, or he puts extra things in your office?
He puts extra things in your office.
Okay.
I was just at a conference where I actually know what urinal he was at because I saw an army man there. So we'll leave that for another time.
Oh, wow. That's a story I need to hear. Yeah. Thanks, Terry. Thanks for that one. And looking forward to meeting you in person. That'd be really cool. Also asking, like, apart from Terry, I mean, buddy, the kind of person that you are, and as you said, people are asking you questions all the time, but maybe a little bit of a what was I going to say? A little bit of a selfish question from my side, but what did you think when you first saw the Submer technology and that kind of thing there? And did you really feel this is something which people are going to have maybe a hard time getting around, or do you feel it now is the time?
Well, I will tell you, I've known Jeff, for your market manager for a while, and I went and looked at the technology as a favor to him, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really sure. But then I went to see it at Digital Realty, and I went, oh, boom, I get this. This is smart. This is great. And I'm fascinated by technologies that can enable us to do better, and to do better with energy usage and cooling. And I thought the Submer technology was tremendous. And I was a believer from that day forward, and I'm just very thankful that you've chosen to invest here in Loudoun County. We really appreciate that.
Well, you're the one who's made that environment possible, and you were talking about enjoying what you're doing. And from my side too, I have to tell you, I know it comes across, but being able to do something where you're building up something new, doing the internationalization, being able to be passionate about solving a real problem. It's a mixture of hardware, chemistry, engineering, everything all coming together. you know, it's also a wonderful, wonderful time in that regard. And apart from playing in bands and stuff like that, it's one of the best buzzes I've had in my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be something that is going to be a legacy project, right? I mean, it's something that can revolutionize the game. I think that that's important.
Absolutely, and that's what we believe. So, you know, we're more of a catalyst, I think, then for that change, rather than actually the change itself, if you know what I mean. But because a change is part of that fundamentally, I think that's why we have to think of it as a catalyst in that regard. So we have another lovely question for you, buddy. A lot of your data center talks are uploaded on YouTube, but where are your playlists?
Well, you know, it's interesting, and thanks, Kurt. Kurt's a great guy, by the way. I don't know if you've met him yet, but he's a great guy. I was over the last few weeks trying to figure out what is the best way to do this. You know, I come from an age where, you know, you used to make mixtapes, then you'd make mixed CDs, and I would love to do that and give that out to people. So, Kurt, here's my commitment to you. I bought a website that is called Click4Radio, click4radio.com. I am going to start publishing on that website a monthly playlist with stories and photos, and I hope to launch that sometime in October. So Kurt, that's going to be the answer to that question. It is coming soon to a website and data center in Loudoun County near you.
Very cool, very cool. I mean, I feel, I don't know how you are, buddy, but I sometimes feel there aren't enough hours in a day to get most things done. I don't feel that sometimes, I feel that all the time. And one of the things that falls short is maybe listening to some new music. But I mean, do you get a chance at all? Do you go and see some live gigs, or is there something like that?
I do, you know, not as much as I used to. I actually was fortunate to be in San Francisco last week having some really good conversations about music and trying to make sure that we're looking at new ways to expose new music. One of the things that, you know, as somebody who grew up with radio, you know, that's how my generation and your generation heard new music. There's so many new ways to discover new music now that it's, you know, it's easy to miss really important bands, and it's just a different way. So, you know, looking at technologies that might potentially be able to kind of get that music out there in a new way is something I'm excited about. Live music is something that I'm very passionate about. There's no greater joy in life to me, and you know, apologies to my family, than that one moment when the curtain goes down, the lights go down, and the band strikes the first chord. It is one of the most energizing moments in life to me. And so I want to continue to find ways to expose that to the next generation.
Yeah. So someone is trying to steer us away from the music thing. Thanks, John. What's the range of capex for construction of the data center facilities in the region per megawatt?
You know, it's we don't really, because our business model as a county is based on personal property tax and real property tax. We don't really look at the megawatts, and I have a really you know, extensive spreadsheet that we do these calculations on. But what I try to do for us is try to understand what our tax revenue is going to be, and we basically get about $15 million a year per million square feet or so of new data center, and that's completely changing. I think when we look at $200 million for a 250,000 square foot building, that's probably about right. 1 million square feet is probably close to $1 billion in capex, all in. But you know, I think everybody has their own model, and I think that kind of changes from project to project.
Okay, maybe I can run something by you, because the figures that I've heard from a lot of your partners, I don't want to call them customers, in Loudoun County, would be anywhere from, on the absolute bottom end, about 5 million per megawatt,
Mm-hmm.
5 million US dollars. And that seems to be quite a lean figure, a very, very lean figure.
Mm-hmm.
And then where you would have maybe at the higher end, still today, up as high as 10 million per megawatt. And does that kind of tie into what you're...
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I would tell you that John's other question, how has CapEx changed over the past 10 years? We're seeing more density inside these buildings, and that is actually, we get more tax revenue out of the newer buildings than we do the older buildings. You know, they're because servers are getting smaller, there's more room, power's being done differently, and so we're seeing more CapEx and more investment going into the newer buildings, and I expect that will continue to grow.
So your model in Loudoun is not based on square foot; it's based on the density as well. Somehow the calculation, or
well, it's two part. The square footage is absolutely important, and that's the real property. But the majority, 85% or so of the tax revenue we get is on personal property. So that is the servers, et cetera, inside. More servers you put in, more money you're spending on them, the more value, and that's where we make a lot of money as well.
Gotcha. And a lot of that cost gets passed down then to the tenant and onto that's whatever right. As well. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool. It's a nice model. I think it's fair, and it's also fair when the facility itself is doing things in a denser way. Mm-hmm. That it also means they're benefiting from that somewhat. Of course, then you're fitting a lot of higher value IT hardware in that same mm-hmm. space, but it's definitely not going to impact the Loudoun County tax bucket or tax bath or swimming pool or whatever it is we should call it.
Yeah, no, and it is. We want to be reasonable. We want to be partners, and we want to understand. And I think if you talk to the companies here, I think our Commissioner of Revenue has been very understanding and has been open to conversations. And I saw a presentation in New York a few years ago, and a few months ago, he actually held Loudoun County up as the model of how other data center communities should be assessing equipment. So we take that very seriously. That's an important part of making sure we remain business competitive.
Very cool. Buddy, I'm very conscious of the time and the fact that we've just gone maybe 2 minutes over what we were thinking of doing here. I just want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of Submer so much. Also for the warm welcome we've received in Loudoun County, also for your participation. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in live today, and also, of course, all those who are going to be listening to this. We will be continuing our series, but Buddy, I think we should arrange next time I'm in Loudoun County, and actually it's going to be mid-October, by the way, okay, that we find some kind of a live gig to go to together, okay?
Yeah, well, I've limited myself to playing cowbell these days, but I could probably do some doo-wops in the background. That might work too. But
look,
this has been an honor. This has been a ton of fun, and I appreciate you having me on this today.
Thank you very much, Buddy, and thank you, everybody. So everybody, take care. Yeah, we'll be talking to you soon and coming to you again soon. Bye-bye.